Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 2nd, 2022 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG-Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Okay, let's get started. Announcements. Only announcement I have is that code freeze is today or tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in. I think it's like 8 p.m. PST. So yeah, if there's anything that must get merged, please let me know. I know a lot of the node reviewers are actually out all week, which is kind of unfortunate. If there is anything that requires a node reviewer, that might be harder to get in, but I've seen a couple of things merge in the last day or two. But if there's anything else, yeah, please let me know. Just raise it on Slack and mention me and I'll try and get that in. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to announce? I think that one other announcement that I can add is that I think they're finalizing the KubeCon North America schedule. The schedule should be up sometime tomorrow or possibly the next day. So if anybody's interested to see what kind of talks got accepted, you can check. I'll add a link to the agenda after this too. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, next we can give a little bit of space to have any new contributors introduce themselves if they want. Totally optional, but if you want to share what you're working on or what you hope to get out of joining the community meeting, it's always appreciated. So either raise your hand or just start talking if you want. Pause for a minute. All right, I don't see anybody, so we can go on to the agenda. First agenda item that I had was actually, since Arvin, since you're here, and Sebastian, should we talk for a minute about the operational, or not the operational readiness, the node service log viewer enhancements? Are we going to just push that to 126?
Yeah, I just got back from my long break yesterday. Over the weekend, I started to work on it again, and I addressed some of Jordan's and Tim's comments. But yeah, we would have to push it out. I had like unrealistic expectations on my time in the last few months. Yeah, I couldn't get much done on it. But I think my tack is going to be to just get it finished and reviewed. And unlike last time where I kind of took a break once it didn't make it in, since I just got back, I'm not going to take a break. I'm just going to try and slam it through. And I really want to thank. I just saw a PR from someone, Fabian. I don't know if you're on the call, for doing the testing bit of the node log viewer. So I am getting some help. So, which is awesome. Fabian, if you're on the call, thank you so much. We can coordinate on Slack as to how we could get your changes once I update the API to use the new query field instead of the service and path field. Basically, the service and path will collapse now into query, and it'll become like, I don't know. I still haven't figured that out. It's supposed to be some kind of magic that Tim wanted, that you kind of sense whether you're asking for a file or a service, and then you either use the file server to present it or use the HTTP server with the journal logs to present it. So I'm still working through that. So I think we would then need to modify the end-to-end test to use that new API. But that's the status on that.
Yeah, I did see that conversation with Tim, like where I think you asked how Tim, if he had any expectations about how that would work, and he pretty much said no.
Yeah, he said like, he basically said magic.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. Anyways, thanks for the update and welcome back, Arvin.
Thank you, folks.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions or anything else to add about this? Nope. Okay. Next agenda item was some folks from the release team posted in Slack today too. They were asking if there were any major themes that SIG-Windows would like to include in the release notes. I'll be working with some of the other leads on putting that together. But if anybody has any things that they'd like to have called out in the 125 release, feel free to either add them to the major themes doc that was linked in the Slack channel, or mention it in SIG-Windows, and we can make sure to get that added. I think we'll call out the PodOS field, and we talk a little bit about the perf work that got added and other things like that. But feel free to reach out if you've done anything. Possibly the operational readiness work too. I think that's in a state that's we've seen some demos of that, so that'd be good to call out to get some more eyes and momentum behind that. All right. Mike, I think you said in Slack or in a DM that you wanted to give an update on CNI Container D. Do you want to do that now?
I didn't want to give an update. I was just wanted to be involved if that was a topic or agenda from yesterday. I'm actually.
Oh, you just missed it again. Okay.
What happened to Mike? Looks like
Okay.
he dropped. He was driving.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that I misunderstood that. I think he was just saying he'd here to answer any questions. So we can remove that. Yeah, does anybody have anything else they want to discuss? I see Lubomir's on here, and I know there's been some conversations in Slack about documentation for getting Windows CNI set up for as part of joining clusters to the nodes. I don't know if people want to talk about that for a few minutes. Might be good.
Hi. Basically, I saw multiple reports from users that they're confused how to add Windows nodes because they expected the old page to exist, but it no longer exists. So they're actually using the history of the website to find the page. I was wondering if we can add some sort of a link to either a placeholder or something so that we can navigate users.
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit in Slack, and the old page was against some of the current guidelines for the websites, but we can try rehosting that on SIG-Windows tools. That's something that if nobody has any objections to, we can try and put together like some readmes for that too. I've been busy with code freeze, but after that's done, maybe we have some more time to figure out how we want that user guide to look like.
Yeah, plus one from me. Basically, I was closing issues at the website and marking them as duplicate of one existing issue that we have. And basically, the issue covers that the problem that users don't know how to add the CNI part. Yeah, I think it makes sense to even if you link to some sort of placeholder with not the full guide. I think the website people might be okay with that, but I'm not sure because, as you may know, they're kind of strict what we link externally. So we can try, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think we can try and see what the folks say about that. After code freeze, I think there'll be more bandwidth from people to do that, and we can just. I think one of the suggestions was linked to an issue that we had. I think it'd probably be a little bit better to at least start a markdown doc in that repository with maybe one example and then link to that, and then we can just iterate on that markdown document rather than linking to an issue. Because the issue is kind of both an outline of how we wanted it to work and some links to some ad hoc docs, but.
You mean hosting the markdown into the SIG-Windows tools repository?
For now, since that's where a lot of the examples of like the daemon sets or like, yeah, the container images are built in the daemon sets for those images.
I think that Fabian can give a hand on that because he's been trying KubeADM as well, and he encounters a couple of issues, and he pretty much figured out how to deploy all the necessary bits for Windows. And I think he can give a helping hand on that side of things.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be helpful. There's a discussion in Slack that I'll link to after the, let me see if I can find it. And we can continue to talk in there to drive that. Where is it?
Yeah, I think it might have been a good idea to actually keep the old page until we have the new documentation, even if it's external. But to my understanding, the recommendation was from the SIG docs people to unify the pages or something like that, which I don't think it was the right time for it, but maybe I don't have the full context.
Yeah, we were doing some pretty substantial overhauls to a lot of the Windows documentation, and as part of that, we were updating the docs for like the KubeADM work that we had, and basically the docs reviewers said all of the content for the old page was violating their like clauses or their rules for documenting how to configure third-party solutions. And so they had asked to remove all of that.
Yeah, I see. Well, we have to have some sort of intermediate solution, I guess. We can follow up on Slack or the issue.
Yeah, let me, I can't find my machine's being really slow right now because I'm sharing. I can't find the Slack chat, but I'll get this on here. And I think, yeah, we can aim to do that.
Yeah, there's been several community members who have come to that particular issue and have kind of put their walkthroughs together on their own repositories, and so maybe we can reuse one of those or have them contribute it in some way if they're interested.
Yeah, here's the issue. Where is it? So this is the issue. Jay started it, and this was kind of an outline of things that we wanted to document. And a lot of this, the later discussions are things like how to install CNIs. And containerd and things like that too. I know that, yeah, Calico has started to add their own documentation. I think the reasoning or the logic behind what the SIG docs folks were saying was like, if things like how to set up Calico should be documented in the Calico docs. And so that's why they're against hosting kind of setup steps for third-party projects. But at the same time, Windows is kind of in a weird state where a lot of those solutions don't have the Windows docs, but things can work with Windows. So we'll try and do this.
Well, there's also this special tag on the website. The website uses Hugo, and Hugo has this like a tag option to basically inform users that this particular section of the docs is about a third-party solution. We already do this in a few places. So yeah, that was potentially one option to consider. Of course, until we have something that is completely external.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think we can work on this a little bit moving forward. And yeah, Fabian, if you want to help out here, feel free to do that. That would be appreciated. I think we can continue this conversation on Slack then too.
Yeah, I added the link to at least the latest Slack thread on that topic.
Okay.
In the doc.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just having issues searching in Slack.
KPMG update is, I think we will merge Windows this week. And once we finish merging Windows, I'm going to work with Dan Winship from SIG Network on Friday to finish off most of the KEP. So, thanks to Dimitri for finishing and polishing it off and testing it in a few different environments. I just talked to him this morning. So the good news is after that, I'll either SIG Network will reject the KEP, which I don't think will happen. But I mean, just the theoretical possibilities, it'll reject that KEP, and then I'll be able to come back to work on core, some help you all with some of the other stuff that's going on, or they'll accept the KEP and I'll continue trying to harden that Windows proxy and the other things in there that we need. And then we will actually have an idiomatic Windows proxy, but I really hope that KEP does get accepted, of course. So that's the update on the Windows proxy for KPMG. By the end of the week, folks should be able to merge it and test it from the KPMG repository. We'll see.
Hypothetical question. If they do reject KPMG, can we reject the rejection?
Appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, well, I'm not sure, but yeah.
I also saw that Vinicius had a comment in the chat. Vinicius asked about the previous topic. He said, or they asked if the problem is lack of end-to-end documentation on how to deploy Windows nodes into a Kubernetes cluster, why don't we use the Windows containers docs for that? And I think one of the issues here is that there's many different CNI solutions that can be used, and that CNI solution must be the same for for the Linux and the Windows nodes in there. And there's potentially a lot of configuration that's required, especially depending on what kind of environment you're deploying into. So I don't know. I don't really think that the Windows containers documentation is appropriate for all of that. And as mentioned before, the best solution is that to have each one of the CNI maintainers, the projects document how to do that. We can provide some references too. But if need be, we can figure out where to document it until that happens.
Mark, do we have a list of those the network plugins that have documentation on their websites or do not have? I guess most importantly, do not have instructions to support Windows networking. I know you just linked Calico, but if you have a list of them, I probably can reach out to them and make something happen.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Calico is the only one that does have documentation.
Does Antrea? I thought I saw some Antrea documentation.
I mean, we definitely have Calico and Antrea. I mean, also we have Calico and Antrea docs, and then we also have both of those are fully integrated into SIG-Windows dev tools. So we have living documentation and we have documentation on those websites.
Was the old documentation the final documentation that was on the site? Is that the only stuff that was on the docs website? Is that the only stuff that was there previously? Was just the final installation method?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was using the Docker and Wins.
Oh, good times. That's OG.
Yeah, which had challenges, particularly if you tried to use it for Containerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we tried to update that to use Calico. That's when to use Containerd. That's when we got the notification that we're not really supposed to pick a particular CNI implementation. We're supposed to kind of link out to the documentation.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add a comment regarding the documentation, and I'm not expecting a solution here. It's just passing on comments that I heard from other people. So I come from the ops side. I'm not a developer, and I listen to a lot of folks that are getting into Kubernetes. And today, if you look for either Microsoft documentation or Kubernetes documentation, like someone that is getting into Kubernetes and trying to understand how it works, they won't be successful in deploying Windows, that period, right? There's a bunch of places that you have to look into. Networking is all over the place. I can't get a Windows Node to run, and I look for the documentation in multiple places, and I have support from you folks in trying to get that to work. So I guess my feedback for this group is maybe we should look into a way to get folks that are not so familiar with Kubernetes as you folks are, into getting started, and then pointing them into more advanced documentation that is available on whatever CNI places or other companies' places. So at least people can get started, understand how it works, start using Windows containers on Kubernetes. And then as they move into production environments, try to understand more complex environments and scenarios, they can look for more advanced documentation. But so that's my feedback based on customer interactions that I had lately.
I have a quick question. Like, what's kind of the how do I say it? Like
The hurdle.
Yeah, like so or what's the appetite for trying to set up like and join cluster machines to a cluster kind of manually? Because I would kind of expect that people's first introduction to Kubernetes and Windows containers is to either use a managed Kubernetes service that supports Windows, or find something like the SIG-Windows DevTools project that a lot of the folks like Jay have put a lot of work into, that's kind of a turnkey solution for hosting a cluster on the box.
Yeah, so there are two things that I've heard in conversations with some folks. The first one is when they are using managed Kubernetes, they get how it works, and it's somewhat simpler, right? But then when it comes to troubleshooting, that's where they get into the weeds of, okay, but then what are the things that the managed service did in the background? So they try to understand that a little bit better, and then they want to deploy a Windows node by hand on a not managed environment. The other thing is people are looking.
That really sounds like the exact reason why we made SIG-Windows DevTools, right? So because they can clone it, and it makes a 2-node cluster on your laptop with a Windows kubelet and a Linux kubelet, and you're going to hack around in there and break it and retry it and stuff.
No, that's great. I was not aware of that, so I'm going to look for more details on that. So thanks.
Yeah, if you want, we can talk about it today, like on a Zoom. I can show it to you or whatever, or we could even do it after this call.
Yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. The other scenario, real quick, is people start with a managed service, but then they want to go into a certification, and then they go back to the same scenario of like, well, I want to see what's happening in the background and under the hood.
Can I say something about the SIG-Windows tools? There was an issue with the kubeadm scripts. More especially the prepare node for Windows, which was deprecated because it used some Docker shim flags that are deprecated in version 1.24 of Kubernetes. I made the PR. I think Mark, you signed it. I'm not sure about it, and that was the main issue that I had using adding the Windows node to the cluster, because I used some deprecated flags, and it wasn't actually working for me.
Okay, is that PR still open? I'll have to take a look.
Yes. I think you assigned it. Let me check.
Okay, I'll go through and check those later.
Okay,
after
I'll
some of the meetings.
pin it in the in Zoom.
Yeah, basically some Docker shim flags were removed in 1.24 since that was the end of life for Docker shim in Kubernetes. I think Fabian posted the link.
Yeah, a lot of Docker shim flags are removed.
So to speed up that whole process of booting DevTools, we build a container, or we build a VM image from image builder using some work that Amim did for VirtualBox. And that particular script got fixed in image builder, but it didn't get fixed because we were using an older version of the image built from image builder. So that's kind of where that came from. I think we were looking into that with Amaranth as well about a month ago.
Yeah, I think so Fabian, the fix that you have done, right? What ends up
Yes.
happening is this the start kubelet command is not what gets what ends up getting used once you configure it with Calico, because Calico has its own kubelet starting script.
Yes, this was something that I think it was on the Kubernetes adding Windows node documentation. There was a page, I'm not sure if it's still out there now. This was the tutorial on how to add a Windows node to your cluster. And this was the main issue that I had. And it crashed the kubeproxy and I think something else when you try to add a new node. And basically you couldn't connect them because it was using some Docker shim flags that are deprecated in 1.24.
Is Amin on the call? I thought he fixed this. Because
I think that there's possibly we're confusing. There's two repositories. There's SIG-Windows tools and there's SIG-Windows dev tools. So let's make sure we're talking about the same one.
Nope, I think we're talking about two different ones. I think now I see it. It's SIG-Windows tools that Fabian has added the PR to. Sorry.
I think that the website,
the problem is the same.
I think the problem's the same. The website used to direct to tool or to scripts and tools that were on the SIG-Windows tools repository. So we should make sure that those are updated too. But then SIG-Windows dev tools, you probably used the same scripts and they may have gotten updated in one spot or not. I think either way, I think it's, good conversations. I think we do need to work on the documentation for joining your own nodes to a cluster. So we can, I need to drop for SIG node. Jay, should I make you I'm gonna stop the recording. I can make you the owner if people want to hang out.
Sure.
These two. All right. Thanks everybody for attending. Yeah, we'll try and get Windows CNI stuff straightened out in the near future.